Let's talk about 20 ways Dungeon Masters ruin their D&D games so that you can avoid these same mistakes. Number 1, taking away player agency. The most extreme example I've seen of a DM taking away player agency was at a convention a few years back. The Dungeon Master literally took control of some of our characters and made them do certain things. Let me tell you, the look of unease and even anger on those players' faces was unmistakable. But denying player agency is usually more subtle. It happens when the player's decisions and actions in the game don't affect outcomes. It happens when the Dungeon Master has already rather decided what's going to happen in the game, usually in servitude to the beloved story that they're trying to tell. Number 2, running too many games. We all like D&D. Yes, we all like D&D. But a Dungeon Master who gets all jazzed up and decides to run 10 games is probably going to run 10 games rather poorly. If you want to run good games and not get burned out, you need to have limits. You may be excited now, but you might not be that excited when you realize exactly what you committed to. Number 3, favoritism.
Hey guys, my girlfriend is going to play with us.
Okay, sure, no problem.
Oh, by the way, she gets better magic items than you all do too.
Yeah, that's not sounding like...
And I sort of have to give her invulnerability because of her. If her character dies, she's gonna be angry with me. It's cool though, and it kind of makes sense because her character is 10 levels higher than your all.
I know I'm picking on girlfriends here, but it could be best friends or just players the DM likes more than others. The bottom line is that when you show favoritism, your other players will notice, and they probably won't be happy. And if it keeps up, they might not be your players for long. Number 4, anti-favoritism. Similar to favoritism, but when the Dungeon Master causes all bad in the game to fall upon one player's character. Their ranger PC gets a nerf, but the paladin who grants +6 to all saving throws, that's fine, that's cool. Oh, and don't forget to have a dragon swoop out of the sky and take away their magic bow while you're at it. By the way, my next Kickstarter, Layers and Legends, is launching soon. It will consist of 2 beautiful hardcover books. The first book, Layers and Legends, will contain an anthology of 5e adventures for levels 1 to 15 and over 100 new terrifying monsters. The second book, Loot and Lore, will compile a massive stash of new Game Master resources to use in your games. Traps, puzzles, NPCs, villains, standalone encounters, random tables, and more. Everything will be 100% 5th edition compatible and is designed to be dragged and dropped into an existing campaign. And if you missed out on our first Kickstarter, Into the Fae, you'll also be able to get a hardcover of Into the Fae as an add-on. Click the link below to follow the Layers and Legends Kickstarter and get notified when it goes live. Number 5, not preparing for the game. Now, some Dungeon Masters are just lazy, admit to it, and will wing everything. Other Dungeon Masters will simply claim they are running an open world sandbox game, so preparation is rather useless. Finally, there are the Dungeon Masters who hide behind the mantra of preparation being worthless because players will just do something else anyway. Fact. Running a good sandbox game involves more preparation than running a non-sandbox game. Fact. The more you prepare, the better game you will run, even if your players dodge your plot hook and head off somewhere else. Fact. Even if you're a veteran Dungeon Master and can run games with little to no prep, your game will be better if you prepare a bit more. I mean, I'm pretty sure those are all facts. Those are at least very strong opinions I hold. Number 6, ignoring player feedback. Now, sure, not every piece of feedback your players give you is gold. When the Power Gamer says that you should give them more magic items or allow them to build Gestalt characters, that's when PCs level up in 2 classes at the same time. Yet you might not want to listen to them. However, the Dungeon Master who ignores player feedback completely and doesn't make any adjustments to continually improve or course correct their game is potentially marching their game right off the cliff. Number 7, the DM versus player mentality. Dear Dungeon Master, your goal is not to win. In fact, winning the game in the traditional sense is absolutely meaningless in Dungeons & Dragons. The bottom line is that your monsters are almost always going to lose. The game is designed that way. Instead, your goal should be to run a game where everyone, including you, has the opportunity to have fun. And the mentality you should adopt is to run a challenging game where you are role-playing the bad guys to win, but you are also secretly rooting for the players' characters to win, and you want them to win, even though sometimes they don't. Number 8, having a DM PC or NPC that outshines the player's own characters. Your player's characters should be in the limelight. They are the heroes of the campaign, not your DM PC or NPC. I don't care how jazzed up you are for your precious NPC or DM PC that you spent hours developing. They should not carry the party and consistently rescue them from certain doom. They should not get all the cool magic items. They should not constantly be in the spotlight. Do this at your own peril. Number 9, prioritizing DM fun over player fun. This is the Dungeon Master who plays the game they want to play, and they ignore player preferences and desires. Now, the DM still owns certain game elements, such as plot arc and villains and how the world reacts to character actions. I'm not suggesting Dungeon Masters should bow down in subservience to their players and ignore their own desires or deny ownership of the DM role. Instead, Dungeon Masters should consider their players' preferences when they design game elements. I should know what my players like and don't like, and then allow that to inform how I run my game. It doesn't rule how I run my game, but it does inform it. Number 10, using homebrew rules no one likes. Yeah, some of us signed up to play D&D 5th edition or 3.5 or 2nd edition or whatever, and we rather don't like all your homebrew rules. And we kind of also don't like that you're using us as guinea pigs for a whole slew of new rules you dreamed up, and every game session you're changing those rules. It's not that DMs should never use homebrew rules. I have some homebrew rules that I use. The issue lies in having too many, having rules players don't like, and perhaps first and foremost, creating said homebrew rules before you even know and understand the core rules at all. This is like having no idea how an internal combustion engine works, but pulling it apart anyway and making your own modifications. You're gonna break something and people might not be happy. By the way, if you're enjoying this video or just like bacon, please give me a thumbs up and let YouTube know down in the comments that I don't suck. In fact, while you're at it, perhaps tell us about the worst homebrew rule you've ever seen in a game. A homebrew rule that's so bad, not even bacon could fix it. Does that exist? I'm pretty sure bacon can fix anything. It's kind of like duct tape, right? Number 11, railroading. Of course, this has to be on the list. Everyone hates a railroad, don't we? Though I must point out, a railroad is not the same thing as a linear adventure. Let's be very clear here. A railroad is when a dungeon master has a predefined story in mind that must needs be played out by their players' characters. For instance, let's say the dungeon master just watched season 2 of Critical Role and decided to run that exact same campaign at their table. But not just that, they also decide that the story that unfolds at their game table should mimic what happened during Critical Role's game, and they take steps to ensure that it does. Railroading is often accompanied by, and is probably a flavor of, stealing player agency. To dungeon masters who are considering running a railroad, I have this plea. Just go write a book instead. By the way, I do have an entire video on my channel devoted to explaining the difference between a sandbox game, a linear game, and a railroad. I'll put a link somewhere around here to that video. Number 12, content that makes players feel uncomfortable. Look, living out your private fantasies at the game table might not be a good idea. A weird furry convention? Probably not gonna go over too well. Including graphic rape scenes that players are intended to roleplay out? There are probably some things that just shouldn't be in the game. And if you're uncertain where the line lies, you should talk to your players and establish those boundaries. Number 13, not removing problem players. Problem players kill games. They suck the life out of your group. They obliterate fun. You might not like it, but you're the dungeon master and your players look to you as a leader. That means it falls on you to act when a problem player needs to be removed from the game. It doesn't mean you need to do it alone, but you need to initiate things, get the ball moving. If you neglect this responsibility, you are doing your good players a disservice, and you may find them slowly leaving the game due to your problem player. The last thing you want is for all of your good players to leave and to be left with the bad player. Number 14, using real life coercion. Apparently this is a thing. The Dungeon Master doesn't have a girlfriend, so he uses his Dungeon Master powers to force the girl to go out with him. The Dungeon Master is short on cash, so she makes her players pay her in order to level up their characters. I mean, I'm gonna be honest here, like, doing this never occurred to me. But don't do that, don't do that. It's very bad. Number 15, allowing PvP. I've said it before, I'll say it again. It may sound like fun, may sound like a good idea, but it takes a really good gaming group full of really mature players for PvP to go smoothly. Whether we're talking about the rogues stealing treasure from the other players, or straight up characters fighting characters, PvP has a very high likelihood of getting players pissed off at each other. I also contend that one of the biggest strengths of D&D and similar tabletop RPGs is that they are cooperative and they do not involve player versus player. So when we introduce PvP into the game, we're ruining that specific appeal of the game. Number 16, not involving all players in the game. This happens when you have 5 players, but 2 of them hog all of the spotlight. They are constantly talking and doing things, and they give the other players no chance whatsoever to do anything in the game. It is your job as the Dungeon Master to create that opportunity for the quieter players to participate. Quiet down the talkative ones and ask the others what they want to do. Also, when it comes to custom magic items, integrating backstories into the game and other such things, make sure that you share the love with all of your players. Number 17, getting burned out. DM burnout is real. I have experienced it myself, and when I'm burned out, my games suffer dramatically. The causes can be varied: running too many games, other stresses or busyness in your life, or just getting bored with D&D. Actions I've taken in the past to help with DM burnout: cutting games so that being a DM stops feeling like work and starts feeling more like fun again. Taking a break, reading fantasy novels or monster manuals or adventure modules to reinvigorate my passion. Eating pack after pack of sweet, delicious bacon. Personal remedies may vary, but ignore DM burnout at your own peril. Number 18, getting overwhelmed. You buy all the core books. You buy all the third-party books. You brainstorm so many ideas for campaigns. You want to use all of the monsters. You start creating your own game world, because all good DMs have their own world, right? So much to read, so much to do. This will take months, years before I'm ready to run my first campaign. Time to get cracking. Let's go! Until you're a crazy-eyed mess hugging your favorite blankie in the fetal position over in the corner. So how about we just take a deep breath, calm down a little bit, and I'll try to calm down too. Just start small. Start running the game and then add slowly as you go. Your sanity will thank you. Number 19, being too generous with wealth and magic items. This is the classic new Dungeon Master mistake. Almost every Q&A live stream, I get this question: Luke, I gave my players too many magic items. Now they're all OP and steamrolling the module. What do I do? I have 2 answers to this. 1, you made your bed, now go sleep in it. Next time, do better. Or 2, prostrate yourselves before your players with an offering of bacon and beg for mercy. Explain the issues the magic items are causing and ask for help. Maybe that means they give a few back. Maybe it means not using them so much. I don't know. Hopefully you and your group can come up with a solution that everyone is good with. I really think offerings of bacon help in this situation. You know, give me back your +3 sword and I'll give you a pack of bacon. It's gonna work. You know it's gonna work. Number 20, forgetting to have fun too. And this is the mistake all Dungeon Masters, new and veteran, can so easily fall into. This is a game. If we're not having fun, why are we playing it? Click on the screen now to learn about the top 7 reasons D&D campaigns fail, or to follow the Layers and Legends Kickstarter and get notified when the project launches. And until next time, bacon baby, bacon.